Alright, so I just finished recording this video. I obviously planned on doing the video series, but this I was not planning on doing, and it shows the future videos in the series will be better. Hi, I'm Zachary Shade, and I wanted to talk about Donald Trump. Actually, what I wanted to do was have an objective, uh, journalistic kind of approach on Donald Trump. So, what I did was buy his 3 books on politics. Now, this is from 2000, Trump, The America We Deserve. I have a sweet paper towel bookmark. And then he has a book from 2011 called Trump, Time to Get Tough. Notice he's like, yay, he's still smiling. And then finally we have his most recent book from November of last year, Crippled America, How to Make America Great Again, where he's like, I'm sorry, that wasn't very objective of me. So anyway, roll the intro. Me, because I'm my editor, and I'll explain more on the flip side. So what I wanted to do was go through his, Donald Trump's political ideologies, standpoints, in the year 2000, from 5 years ago, and today, and try to, like I'm starting with the book in the year 2000, and I'm approaching it as him in the year 2000. Like I'm not comparing it to him today until I get to that point in his career. I want to know what he was saying in 2000 and why he was saying it in 2000. And I also want to try to keep my opinions out as much as possible, whatever personal feelings I have. So yeah, I read the introduction to his first book, and I thought that there was a lot of things in it that people might be kind of surprised to hear. So in future videos, I'm going to be covering the whole book at a time, or at least broken up into groups of chapters, depending on how long it is. But this first video, I just want to go into the introduction. So let's pull on out Mr. Trump's book here. This is, I can't grab a book because I'm really cool. Alright, so I would like to start with the fact that in the acknowledgments, Jesse Ventura is actually one of the people whose breakthrough in Minnesota caused me to start thinking about the role people outside government must play to help our country. Now, whatever you think about Jesse Ventura at this point, he's probably gone a little off the rails, but back in the year 2000, he also, Jesse Ventura, the independent, no political party affiliation, but leaning with libertarian tendencies. So this is somebody who Trump was kind of influenced by. But yeah, and the fact that Jesse Ventura was a wrestler, and people are like, but then he ended up doing a good job, and it was somebody who wasn't a career politician coming and getting into something. So that's interesting. Let's just start with the first paragraph, just so you can get the setup. I'll just read it directly here. Let's cut to the chase. Yes, I am considering a run for the presidency of the United States. This is the year 2000, mind you. The reason has nothing to do with vanity, as some have suggested, or merely to block the advancement of other candidates. I will run if I become convinced I can win. 2 things are certain at this point, however. I believe non-politicians represent the wave of the future, and if elected, I would make the kind of president America needs in the new millennium. So, I mean, honestly, that's not a bad start, and considering who we ended up getting as president for the years after that, this is actually more of a compliment that I think I've ever heard any politician give we the people as well. Why are voters looking outside the political game for political players? The reason is that the American people want to be told the truth. They know we don't have the political leaders we deserve, and they know that if things don't change, we won't have the America we deserve. Does that mean I have more faith in the people than the politicians do? I hope so, because a lot of people at the top of the political game think the American people are naive. They think the American people are like little kids who can't face facts. Can't argue with that. He then goes to talk about the coming heavy weather. Ooh, ominous. I'm sorry. I gotta fucking mess around sometimes, but very interesting. Remember, this book is from 2000. The first storm Economic disaster. I hope I'm wrong, but I think we may be facing an economic crash like we've never seen before, probably sooner rather than later. The next president, or maybe the one we've got, could be in office for a stock market crash worse than the one in 1929. I'm not saying this crash will ruin us, but we have to anticipate it and know how to rebound. We'd better be ready as a nation to claw our way back up. Right now, I'm not seeing the leadership we're going to need. Sorry. Um, yeah, it did happen about 7 years later with the fucking global financial crisis, the fucking Dow Jones in 2008 dropping 5 days in a row and being really shitty. Um, Analysts call it, the worst thing since the Great Depression. Maybe not worse than it, but it's here. Donald Trump predicted it. Or somebody who helped him write the book predicted it, but it's here. It's in the book. It's in the book. Look. Look at the book. Look at the book. All right. Okay. I'm kind of losing my mind. Sorry. It's hard to be serious for me. And then the second storm, terrorism. We need to get past the idea that just because we're the only superpower, we're safe. My Uncle John Trump was an MIT professor and a brilliant man, blah, 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 blah. He had including a strong belief that one day the United States might be subjected to a terrorist strike that would turn Manhattan into Hiroshima too. I always respected Uncle John, but sometimes found myself wondering if maybe he wasn't exaggerating just a bit. Well, he was exaggerating just a bit. It wasn't Hiroshima too, but a year after the book was published, that date, I don't remember, 7/11, 9/11, that's it. It happened. I mean, shit. I think that he would have handled the fucking financial crisis and the 9/11 better than Bush. He called him. Alright, anyway, moving on. Okay, I'm trying here to be more serious, but I'm gonna shoot straight about terrorism and the foreign threat. Okay, anyway. I'm also going to talk about Social Security. I'm lucky enough not to have to worry about getting a Social Security check, but most Americans do, and they are right to be worried about their futures. That's a very liberal standpoint for somebody who's now running for the Republican presidency. Well, the whole U.S. presidency, but as a Republican. This video's going off the rails fucking quick. I'm leaving it in, whatever. He has views on children and education. My argument is simple. We put the kids first every time, every way. We like to say that children are our future, but we're not treating them that way. I was reading a story about the kid in an inner city school. He didn't ask for much. He just wanted the doors locked so the punks couldn't come in off the streets and sell their drugs and shoot people who were trying to learn. This kid said he was scared to walk home. This is an American kid I'm talking about, and he's scared that he'll be shot at school. We send troops around the world to stamp out trouble. We don't protect our own children. What about their American dreams? Okay. Also, he goes on to, say that he's talking to some dude, and they proposed a massive rebuilding of the nation's schools. And how would they pay for it? It'd be a $50 billion program. Instead, Richard says we could come up with $50 billion if we pulled our troops out of Europe. We can protect Europe with our nuclear arsenal and use those funds for our schools. I don't know, the nuclear weapons are the best. It's going to be really hard to not have personal feelings in this, but, still, he's got a point about, the troops all around the world, but people aren't safe in our own country. Then again, a militarized police force isn't exactly the most helpful thing either, but hey, at least he had a plan. His views on crime may get a little intense, but it ends on a good sentiment. Mayor Giuliani has proved that common sense policies backed up with a willingness to crack heads makes life better for everyone except the criminals. If I were in charge of things, life would be even tougher for these predators. If there was a situation in New York like that terrible dragging death in Texas, I'd not only put the perpetrators to death, I'd find some way to make them an example to others. If you're not tough on crime, then you're an enemy of the American dream. The people who get hurt the most by crime aren't living in skyscrapers. They are, for the most part, living in poor neighborhoods. Crime keeps them from grabbing their part of the American dream. Several years ago, John O'Donnell, who worked for me briefly and whom I fired, wrote a supposedly tell-all book in which he alleged that I made disparaging remarks about blacks and Jews. There was a malicious attempt to smear me. Anyone who really knows me knows that I hate intolerance and bigotry. This this was in 2000. It was These were unsubstantiated rumors at the time. Got to keep that in mind for the purpose of this experiment. We're going from 2000 moving forward to see if he's really crazy or if there's, still this decent person underneath it. Well, decent ideas anyway, so far. Plus the rest of what he says after that is. So yeah, he ran boxing events. So he was friends with Muhammad Ali, and Joe Frazier. He was friends with Puffy Combs and Sammy Sosa, and learned firsthand about the diversity of American culture. This is what really hit me though. One of our next president's most important goals must be to include a greater tolerance for diversity. The senseless murder of Matthew Shepard in Wyoming, where an innocent boy was killed because of his sexual orientation, turned my stomach. We must work towards an America where these kinds of hate crimes are unthinkable. Only took about a decade and a half for the general public to really start caring about that. So, once again, there's that. Mr. Trump also says, there are some issues I don't want to say much about. I support a woman's right to choose, for example, but I am uncomfortable with the procedures. I mean, that's very honest, because most people who are pro-life really never give a logical argument. I mean, at least from like a scientific standpoint, I should say. Um, they under the guise of women's health they don't allow it. But I'm not trying to get into a huge debate here. I'm trying to talk about Trump. But yeah, I mean that's a very liberal stance of the pro-choice, but also he just admitted that it's icky. um, so that's kind of cool. He goes on to talk about surrounding himself with good people, making sure that he's hiring the right person to run his casinos and blah, 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 and whatnot. And that may seem unimportant, but I mean, the cabinet that possible President Trump were to choose, I mean, if he really, it goes back to his views on loyalty and stuff. I mean, that would be a good thing to actually like heavily interview and not just pick, your political affiliation to surround yourself with. Like, most presidents do it. Actually put some thought into it. Would be cool. Let's see. I'm gonna just skip through some of this real quick. He's talking about getting out of debt. Uh, in the early 90s, he was 9.2 billion in debt, and 900 million of that was personal debt. And one night in 1991, in front of Tiffany's with a friend, I saw a man with a seeing eye dog and pencils in a can. I pointed him out. Do you realize that man is worth 900 million more than I am? I said to her. I'm worth minus 900 million right now. And then he went and he did dig himself out, no matter how much money he actually has, the 4 billion, 8 billion, 12 billion, whatnot. He did dig himself out, and with a small loan of $1 million. But, hearing him talk about his money all the time, I guess that I can sort of see where he's coming from, because lots of people are proud of themselves when they get out of debt. So I guess, I mean, he is human, I think. And, so let's see. Finishing up the chapter real quick here. He's talking about, you know, besides that, what makes the political pros and Washington insiders believe they have an edge on the truth? Think for a second about what the entire political world was obsessing over throughout 1998 and part of 1999. Monica. I think the national consciousness has been deeply scarred. Americans have been drained of their spirit by the entire Clinton-Lewinsky impeachment fiasco. Yeah, I was, what, 11 when that happened, and so I was first starting to pay attention to politics, and I'm like, this is what people like care about. Who gives a shit if a guy got blown? Like, oh, he cheated. Like, yeah, that's amoral or something, but there was nothing illegal about it, whatever. Um, but I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm going to read it because it adds to his personality and state of mind in the year 2000. I got a chuckle out of all the moralists in Congress and in the media who express public outrage at the president's immoral behavior. I happen to know that one U.S. senator leading the pack of attackers spent more than a few nights with his 20-something girlfriend in the hotel I own. There's also a conservative columnist, married, who's particularly rough on Clinton in this regard. He also brought his girlfriend to my resorts for the weekend. Their hypocrisy is amazing. So, there's that. I keep ending with "so there's that," I believe. I'll see when I'm editing it. And so I'm just going to end on this. I mean, really, the outro paragraph of the introduction, it really just sums up what sounds like a really good politician. I'm not worried about whether or not the intellectual, journalistic, political establishment thinks I've got the stuff to talk about saving the American dream. I believe in the American dream. My business experience shows me that it works, and I want to do everything possible to see that regular Americans can enjoy the same opportunity for success and security that I have had. That means the American dream unencumbered by bureaucratic ineptitude, government regulation, confiscatory tax policies, racism, discrimination against women, or discrimination against people based on sexual orientation. We must all have equal access to the American dream. It's a dream we deserve and a dream worth fighting for. So, yeah, that's somebody I could see the people rallying behind, and maybe Trump supporters remember that it's possible that they don't just hear the "keep the Mexicans out with a wall." I don't know. We'll see. I'll get more in depth with the rest of this book, Mr. Trump, as I read it. Um, I'm actually gonna write a script. This was totally just fucking unplanned, so I'm just reading from the book, but I'll have a more detailed, not just straight reading paragraphs in the book, because that's fucking stupid. You could go buy the book yourself in the future. But so that's my plan. I'll put videos out as I get through the books. They're not very long, so shouldn't take me. Who knows? I might be busy masturbating really a lot or something like that.